Hey, welcome back to Delectable You Recipes for Food and for Life. Today we are making a wild blueberry granola crumble. Now, truth, I originally set out to make this recipe into granola bars, but what I found was after I took these bars out of the fridge, they didn't actually stick together and I couldn't figure it out. But then I realized it's because I used wild frozen blueberries. So the moisture kept the granola from turning into bars. So instead it turned into a crumble, but it actually turned into a happy accident because then I could make parfaits and use the granola crumble over top of coconut yogurt and anything else that I would normally put granola over. So happy accident turns into both of our good fortunes. So let me show you what to do. Okay, so grab yourself a nice big bowl and we're gonna add the dry ingredients here, and then we're gonna do some stuff over the stove, and then we're gonna come back here and mix it all together. Okay, so first things first, we've got these organic brown rice crisps. These are gluten-free. You can use regular Rice Krispies, but I like the organic stuff. That's 1.5 cups. Then we've got 1 cup of unsweetened shredded coconut. And then we've got 2 cups of gluten-free rolled oats, 1/2 cup of sunflower seeds, these are raw, and then we're gonna do about 1/3 cup of sesame seeds. And now we're just gonna toss it all together. Okay, that looks good to me. Now we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna melt down some honey, maple syrup, almond butter, and some other stuff. So let's go to the stove. So we're at the stove. What I've already got going on in this beautiful orange Le Creuset pot is a tablespoon of coconut oil that is melting down right now over medium heat, but I'm gonna turn it down to medium low. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add 1 cup of almond butter to the pot. Now, I'm gonna give you a little insider tip. The first time I made this recipe, I used homemade almond butter. I think that made the difference, as well as there being wild frozen blueberries, in how the bars did not turn into bars, but instead turned into a loose crumble. When I did the recipe with store-bought almond butter, the crumble came together a little bit more. So that's a cool thing. So if you make your own almond butter, it's definitely gonna be a crumble. If you use a store-bought almond butter, you may get a cross between bars and crumble. Either way, you can crumble the granola over anything that you want to. But I just figured I would share that part of my journey in this recipe. Okay, so there's our cup of almond butter. And now we're going to also add 1/2 cup of honey, and 1/2 cup of maple syrup. Now, if you are vegan, you can add all maple syrup and don't worry about it. If you don't want as much sweetener in general, just add a little bit less. If you like honey better, use all honey, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Just some kind of liquid sweetener that adds up to about 1 cup or a little less if you want it to be less sweet. It's a crumble, remember, so we don't really have to worry about it coming together to form a bar, so you can put less liquid sweetener if you want. And now I'm gonna add a pinch of cinnamon and a pinch of sea salt. And I'm just gonna mix this all together. All we're looking for is for the almond butter and the sweeteners and the salt and cinnamon to come together. We're not trying to boil anything here. Okay, oh, I wish you could smell this right now. It smells so good. So everything has come together nicely. It's nice and smooth, no more lumps. So now we're gonna turn off the heat. We're gonna take this over to the table where our granola is waiting. Whew, make sure I don't burn myself. Okay, now we're gonna pour this mixture into our granola. Oops. Okay. And at the same time, we're gonna add our frozen wild blueberries. And I like to use wild blueberries because they have a lot of health benefits, more so than regular organic blueberries, partially because they're wild and they can grow anywhere, which shows their ability to adapt. And that's the kind of nutrients I want inside my body. Oh, there we go. Okay, there's a cup of frozen wild blueberries. And we're just gonna toss this all around. If you're curious more about wild blueberries, I learned a lot about it from this guy, Anthony Williams. He's called the Medical Medium. And he talks a lot about how important it is to get wild blueberries into your diet, which is actually what inspired this recipe to begin with. Because I put them in my shakes, but I wanted to find another way to get wild blueberries into my diet, and this was a great way. Unfortunately, since discovering this recipe, creating this recipe, I learned that I am allergic to almonds and sesame seeds. So I'm gonna make a different recipe, probably with pecans and pecan butter, but follow the same guidelines and put some wild blueberries in it. So if any of you watching have an allergy to any of the things I just said, just use this recipe as your base and then just replace it with things that you can eat. That's the beauty of recipes. You can change them to suit your own needs. I'm making this though because my daughter and my husband can eat it. And my dad, who's visiting from Montreal, can eat it too. Okay, we're almost there. What I want to make sure is that every little morsel of dried good gets covered in the almond butter sweetener mixture. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so now I've got a parchment paper lined baking dish. Okay, and I'm gonna dump this just like I would if I were making granola bars. Dump this in here. Okay, and now just like if you were making granola bars, what you're gonna do is spread this out evenly with the back of your spoon. Get all this goodness off the spoon. Oh my gosh, I wish I could lick my finger right now. Oh, but I can't. Okay, and now we're just gonna smush this all down. Again, as if we're making bars. So if you used homemade almond butter, this is almost certainly not going to come together into a bar. It's just gonna be more like a crumble. If you use store-bought, you're gonna get closer to a consistency of a bar, but it's still gonna be like a crumble. And then if you really and truly do want this to be a bar and not a crumble, I would suggest getting some dried wild blueberries. And then you can make a bar, because then you won't have the moisture from the frozen wild blueberries. Okay, so now all we need to do is put this in the fridge to chill overnight, which I will do once I make room in the fridge. But this is what they look like in the end. So as you can see, I was able to cut them into bars, but see, they kind of crumble apart anyway when you touch them, which is great. So my daughter and I, before I found out about my allergy, would sit on the floor and just eat this from the pan. But I also, like I said, like to put it over coconut yogurt, or just use it any way that you would normally use a granola crumble. So that's it, my friends. My accident, our good fortune. That's how you make these wild blueberry granola bars, crumble, however you want to look at it. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been Lauren with Delectable You, and I will see you again next time. Enjoy your crumble.